This is the Chamber Link, connecting community, creating impact with Tyler
to the Chamber
Fischbach.
Link. It is a nice, cool morning in Fargo, North Dakota. I actually have a sweatshirt on today. I was catching some grief from my coworkers, the fact that it's August and I have long sleeves on. But here we are. I'm owning it. So today is going to be a very fun episode. And as mentioned before, after we wrapped up a recent conversation with Mayor Shelley Carlson and Derek LaPointe in Moorhead, I mentioned to them that we're going to have a similar conversation with leaders in Dilworth, and today is that day. We're going to discuss the city of Dilworth, their growth and development plans, and I'm really excited for our two guests to unpack some of that for us. And today we have Mayor Chad Olson with the city of Dilworth, and we have Peyton Mastera, the city administrator for the city of Dilworth. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for being here today, and I think we're going to have a great conversation. And what I want to do, I've got a little game for the two of you. I want to see if you know who this quote is from. So I'm going to start reading it, and we'll see if you got if you got it, because I think you know who it is. Quote, "We tend to our city like a flower. If you don't do the things necessary for it to grow and to bloom and to blossom into something beautiful, and if you don't pay attention to all of the details, you don't get the results. We put in the time. We put in the effort. We're committed to our community to make sure it grows and to make sure it blossoms." End quote. Did I stump you?
I think I got it.
Do you know?
Yeah, I have a fairly a 50-50 shot. Peyton, you want to go first?
I know, but I want to let Chad take it.
I figured I would stump you with this. But
No, and I can't remember. I'm going to give Mayor Shelley Carlson that credit because of the whole Rose thing during the chamber State of the Cities. But I don't know if those were her words or if I stole her symbol of the flower and used it in the opportunity.
Well, that was a good guess because you're exactly right. That's where the quote came from, was State of the Cities, but that was Mayor Chad Olson on stage. So very nice. That was a great quote. And I think that's a good kickoff for today's conversation.
That's a good start.
Some horticultural pontification, I suppose, is what we'll call that.
But really, I do think you did a good job with that quote, saying all the work and the attention to detail that goes into what you guys do every day. And so I'm curious, Mayor, let's just kick it off. How have things been going in Dilworth? How's 2025 been so far? What's on the horizon?
Well, again, first and foremost, thank you, Tyler, for allowing us the opportunity to be a part of the show and really highlight our part of in the greater Fargo-Moorhead, West Fargo, Horace, and Dilworth community.
Very good.
And using, the metaphor, was it metaphor, simile, which one? Sorry, my English teacher, Miss Felkley, Miss Wally, is probably trembling right now because I'm getting it wrong. But it holds true. What we're seeing mature in 2025 is really a lot of the work that has been taking place over the last 2, 3, 4, and even 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
When we're talking about, one of the big elements too is, our fire department is almost completed. We got a couple of housekeeping details.
Mm-hmm.
We got to plant the grass and finish pavement, but that element is matured. It has grown. It's going to be completed, and it's going to transition from, hey, this is one of our projects to this is the history of our projects. Mm-hmm. and looking forward. And at the same time, when we look at what's next, I mean, it's also already happening. When you're looking at business growth on the west side of town, we have working, Highway 10 corridor studies. Yep. I mean, that's in the process of that, trunk highway transformation and how that's going to impact residential commercial growth. We're also looking at, again, residential growth now, new proposed development going north of existing neighborhoods, to complement our expansion to the east. Mm-hmm. And in the east, of course, we see increased commercial opportunities in our rail district, some pragmatic growth there, new growth there this summer. And of course, we're wrapping up, Peyton, would you say wrapping up planning for the community center? Again, public input has been essential. We're making sure we, really have ample opportunities for the public to comment throughout the process. And as that is, going from planning to bidding, we're seeing, 2025 conclude and some projects end, but yet, we're also seeing some, beginning to grow, and new opportunities take shape.
It seems like in 2020, when the world shut down, the world also opened up for the community of Dilworth. It seems since that point, that's sort of that breaking point for us where we were on the brink of something, didn't know exactly what it was. But ever since then, it's just been opportunity after opportunity for the city. We talk about the fire hall. There's been other infrastructure improvements that have come about as well. So we think about like our 7th Street project, but a lot of grants were flowing in our way. We worked in tandem with the chamber and other people to secure funding at the state level. This was all coming out of sort of this 2020 breaking point. Along that same time, there was interest in developing to the east end of town. On the commercial front, we were always talking what's going to be that next commercial base within the community, with the exception of our Highway 10 corridor. And the new rail district has taken off. It just seems that once 2020 hit, it was an opportunity for us. Even though we were going through the same challenges as everyone else, we looked at it as an opportunity. And so we took all the advantages that I feel we have in our community. You know, we pride ourselves on being part of the entire metro. What's good for our community is good for the betterment. What's good for Horace is great for our community. We really champion that motto and trying to think regionally how we can build a community that's attractive, not just for our residents and businesses, but for also those in the entire area.
That was a great overview, and you guys brought up a lot of projects that I think we'll probably jump into, like the community center. I'm really curious about some of that corridor stuff you were mentioning, and we'll get into that. And we have a break coming up soon, but this is just me being curious, Peyton. Can you, and this is probably common knowledge, but can you just high level maybe explain what your role is at the city, just to try to get the foundation of, okay, this is how Peyton works with Chad and how the whole thing works, just because I'm just curious. It was like, what is your...
Yeah, that's an excellent question. You know, a lot of people in my profession, the city management profession, we get asked often, do you want to be mayor one day? You know, do you want to be on a council? Yeah. And it's a totally two different tracks. So really my job and my profession as a whole, we serve at the pleasure of the city council. They set the policy. My job is to be that conduit and implement the policy. So that's really what I'm doing. So, you know, within a city, you have your day-to-day operations, public safety, maintenance department, swimming pool, dealing with issues there. We have, you know, other elements of any city. And I guess I'm the top person within that organizational structure. But I don't really look at my job that way. I get to be very hands-on in my work. I love it. I get to be there on a daily basis, but also, again, being that conduit between city staff and with the elected officials to ensure that we're moving this plane, you know, we're going to land the plane safely every single time. And so I'll bring policy recommendations to the city council, but ultimately at the end of the day, Chad's the one that can get voted out of office for maybe my bad recommendation, because he's the one that gives a thumbs up or thumbs down there.
Yeah,
so,
fair enough.
You know, a lot is driven by our city staff, and as I explain all the time, I don't have a team that works for me. I have a team that I work with. And we're 20 full-time employees. You know, with our part-time employees, we're, 50 plus, depending upon the season there. And we all move in tandem, or not in tandem, but we all move collectively together to implement the goals and wishes of what Mayor Olson and the rest of the council want to see take place.
That makes great sense. Thank you for explaining that. That was a very clear explanation of how things work. I appreciate that. All right, guys, this is going quick. We're already at our first break, and we'll come back, and we'll probably jump into some projects and get down into some details. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show, and we're guilty of this every time. I almost feel like we need to have our mics on all the time because we continue having good conversations during the break. But I am curious about, well, you brought up many great projects, both of you did, and I'm thinking back to this must have been early fall. The Chamber had a Pulse event, and we were talking about a lot of big projects. I think the Fargo Dome may have been a part of that, the Convention Center, and of course, Peyton, you presented on Dilworth's Community Center. And so I'm kind of curious now, as we're several months removed from that and the vote happened, where are we at with this project? And do you want to kind of explain what that is?
Yeah, and if I remember from the Pulse event, it pulsed, I don't know what the term is, but it pulsed really well as far as people in support of it. I think we had one or two naysayers, and the vote was similar to that once it came around in November. So a local sales tax, we were removing the word option, but the local sales tax has now been implemented. It went to the voters in November, passed overwhelmingly. What was it, Chad? Was it 71%?
72%.
Yeah, 72%, something around that. So that spoke to the voice of the community and wanting to see a new community center. When the fire hall came down, it was co-located with the prior facility, and there was a desire to have something reconstructed. And so that's what that vote was all about, and now we're progressing that along. We had our first sales tax collection report recently because it went online in April, and so now we'll collect that until we hit $5.4 million plus bonding costs for our community center project, which ends up being the primary funding mechanism for the project.
Okay, that makes sense. And can you kind of explain what your vision is for this? And I actually didn't know it used to be co-located with the fire hall. And so I'm guessing you have more grandiose visions for what this new one is going to be. Can you jump into that?
Well, and I like, when we're looking at, what is our vision, and it's important that we, take a look at the history of the city of Dilworth and incorporate that into where we see our future going. And it was co-located in really a tin pole barn with our fire department. And while we're looking at doing it, bigger and better, we're still mindful of, the financial responsibilities that we're faced with. So our first goal was to replace the community center in and of itself. How do you refer to it? Like the meeting hall, the group space with wedding
social
dances,
hall.
social hall.
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
and to make sure that we have a place replacing what was taken away in that development of the fire hall. And so our new vision that's been developed with, again, community input, public comments, is inclusive of that social hall space for fundraisers and wedding dances. And then our vision is to have something that is, one, flexible, but also more accessible. Like, what else can we do with the space? What else can our citizens do with the space? So accompanying the social hall space is the indoor play space, indoor activity space. It's going to get cold here in not too long. So indoor activity space for kids, and then meeting space, flexible meeting spaces. That's going to allow for an opportunity for organizations or for larger city meetings that are outsizing City Hall from time to time. Opportunities for those meetings to take place, along with a commercial kitchen encompassing how many square feet we're looking at? Do you remember? I can't keep it. I don't remember the stats. But when I see it, yeah, it's modest. It's very similar. It's a little larger meeting space, a little larger social gathering space, a more modernized kitchen, and flexible areas in terms of meeting space. So while it is going to be bigger and better, it's grandiose is not within our budget maybe, but we can do great things if we pay attention to the details, right? And I'm very excited with what the architects and engineers have really developed in terms of, how it's going to be set up, the open meeting space, the foyer or the active entry space. It's just going to allow that next level of amenity inside of the city of Dilworth. So I'm very excited for what we're going to see and what's been put together.
That is exciting. Oh, you're going to say something, Peyton?
When I moved up here, people would talk about our community center, and I would always just refer to it as a social hall space. And maybe that's because, some redneck from Kentucky just coming up here have a different viewpoint. And so when we were going out making the pitch for all this and promoting the sales tax vote, we were explaining to people we want to have a facility that's reimagined, not recreating what we had previously. We still want to maintain that, but we want to, if we're going to make it a community center, we want to make it about the community. We want to have a space that people can come to on a more frequent basis. And that's what we believe we're setting the foundational steps for with this new facility.
Well, and I'm curious too, you guys, and I commend you for the job you do every day, because you have complex planning that goes on with projects like this, right? And I'm curious, how does this run adjacent to, you talked about 2020 when you guys start developing plans, and it takes many years for things to come to fruition, but how does this run parallel to your residential goals or your workforce goals or business goals? I mean, it's all kind of tied together in a certain way, right?
Without a doubt. And it's interesting. And you talked about, what's Peyton's role? Does he want to be the mayor? And that's where I consider myself, council, and the city of Dilworth very, very lucky, because you're right. Like the community center is a substantial undertaking, but it's connected to everything in Dilworth, right? The city amenity, residential growth, and then increased commercial opportunity. And when I'm trying to, that's a lot. And when I'm explaining, how does my real job as a teacher, how do you as a teacher have time for this? Well, that's where Peyton and our full-time staff is so important, because they tend to those elements every single day. So as we're looking at one element of the community center, our full-time staff is also looking at, okay, so how does this look when we talk about residential development?
Yep.
What type of density, what type of development, and can we incorporate commercial in that as well? And as those conversations are happening on a daily basis, that Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, if it was just that, I think it'd be fantastic. The typical business day, if you will,
Yep.
as the day-to-day operations are happening. And again, that's what makes, I think, what makes Dilworth stand out is we can really focus on each and every opportunity. Our staff will make sure that we're looking at how we're able to do this, figure out how to incorporate it so it's done right and it's done well. And I'm excited for how the community center is going to be, once again, an element for our community, but also it's going to be an element of growth to take our community to the next level. And when we're talking about this, again, we talk about the foundation of the community center, and that's where we're starting. We're starting with our foundation. We're starting with the essentials. And from there, we have opportunities to build. We're looking at, in the future, how do we look at, is there partnerships involved for, a library opportunity, a reading, an academic part, again, to get people into the community center on a daily basis. And how do we look to the future to incorporate an activities component, gym space, workout facility, whatever the case may be. And again, the concepts and the premise are looked at by council. The day-to-day tending to the questions and answers and looking for the information is done by our full-time staff. And that's, again, I'm extremely grateful for the commitment that we have from all of our staff in Dilworth.
Yeah, and it's a lot of work, and it seems like you guys get along pretty well. So it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch that dynamic.
He's tolerable.
Well, how long have you guys been working together, I suppose?
So actually, Mayor Olson was part of the city council that hired me. So I've been here coming up on 11 and a half years now.
Maybe 14?
That's another joke. But no, I've been here for 11 and a half years. I've always had great support of the council, been grateful for their support and everything they've provided me with this opportunity. But back to your question, Tyler, real quick, because I know we're going to a break here in just a second, but you can't clap your hands unless both of them are moving, right? And that's how I look at a city. If my left arm and right arm both have to be in, cohesion with one another. Every decision that we make, every land use decision, every opportunity that we're trying to build and foster, it has to be in agreement with other elements of the community. How is this going to work? If I walk out of this coffee shop, how is that viewpoint going to look when I'm looking up to the left or looking across the street? If I'm leaving my home and I want to get on this path, how long does it take me to walk over to the rail district? These are all the things that you're considering at all times, also balancing out the financial considerations. But when you're trying to develop a community, being able to play SimCity, this is what the opportunity has before us. We have a clean slate, so to speak, with many parts of our town. So we're very blessed to have the city in which we do to play with these things.
Well, and we have a lot more to unpack, and thank goodness we still have about 25 minutes together. So we're going to head into the news, and we'll be back and continue chatting. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We are here today talking about Dilworth growth and development, and we're joined by Mayor Chad Olson out of the city of Dilworth and Peyton Mastera, the city administrator at the city of Dilworth. It's been a good conversation so far. I've been learning a lot. We just kind of wrapped up talking about the community center, which is pretty interesting to me, and it makes me think about as well, even with our entire region, it's awesome to be able to brag about the projects that are going around, whether it's in Fargo, West Fargo, way in South Fargo, in Moorhead. I mean, Moorhead's downtown, that's a massive undertaking, but that's going to be so cool for the entire region. And I think about the rail district too. And it might seem something so simple, whereas I'll even talk about me and my wife. We live in Moorhead. We like to come out to Dilworth now. That hasn't been a thing that we used to do. And so that's just one tiny example. But I would love to know a little bit of the history. Like, how did that come to be? What's going on there right now? Because I probably don't even know all the things that are going on in that district, but I would love to learn more about that because it's a cool spot. It really is.
Yeah, I'll get started here. A lot of credit goes to the developers out there and the landowners. They had a vision for the area. Obviously, they have to work with us to make it a possibility. So it first started with us opening up 14th Street. Now, that may not sound like much, or people may not understand really what that means, but it's a new, we'll call it just a more primary arterial roadway within the community. That was sort of the next big roadway phase that we had to construct in the community to start this far eastern end of town. And what they've created is a destination. You mentioned, Tyler, that you and your wife come over there. That's not uncommon. If you speak with any of the business owners out there, they'll tell you the majority of their customers are not Dilworth residents.
Sure.
They come from West Fargo. They come from Horace. They come from Moorhead. Obviously, we're great supporters in town as well, but they get a lot of rural support that comes in because of the butcher block and all the other amenities that are coming in out there. So really, most of the credit goes with them. They had a vision. They worked with the city quite a bit to develop it to make sure things flow nicely, to make sure we're going to have the residential support nearby. We have a residential subdivision just to the north of there. We have a 72-unit complex right across the street, another one that's coming online next year. And they had a vision. It's almost like their own little city over there to a degree, but it's taken off. And it is amazing the level of interest that they are receiving from prospective businesses wanting to co-locate out there, to be located out there. And they have a new commercial front that's gone in every single year, another one that's being constructed right now. So we're really excited about the possibilities.
Wow. So it's not over is what you're saying. There's more. There's more to come. Okay.
Yeah. Just getting started, and we're talking about the community center project. This is going to go just down the street from there. The grand vision for the rail district is more encompassing than just the little roadway segment that you see right now on 15th. It's going to be expanded further to the east. And obviously, this is going to take several years to come about, but it's a much larger picture that we're painting than just what you see today.
Well, you brought up, was it 14th Street, which makes me think about, I'm kind of shifting gears, but I'm curious about it, is Highway 10, because I know I was reading MnDOT has plans, and can you kind of unpack what that is and how do you think that's going to positively impact, and maybe there are challenges that come with it too, I don't know, but I'm curious about the impact of that future project.
Just quick, I mean, obviously with any type of construction, there's challenges, right? But we have to remain optimistic, right? I mean, with the construction is going to come opportunities, and that has to be our focus. We're looking at working with MnDOT to ensure that we're creating a safe and viable and livable trunk highway corridor that runs through our city. And as we do that, again, my confidence is 100% in the cooperation that the city of Dilworth has with our state officials and our state leaders, and again, turning that over on that daily basis to our staff to work with their staff to ensure Highway 10 is transformed into something that's going to continue to benefit the city of Dilworth for the next, I don't know, how long has Highway 10 been in Dilworth? A long time, a long time. So, and again, it's going to create opportunities, right? Yeah. We want cities that are walkable. We want traffic to be able to flow safely, and we want businesses to thrive along that corridor. And again, looking at that gives us opportunity to ensure that we use it to grow our city in a very responsible and pragmatic manner.
So the interesting part from the Highway 10 work that's being done, you have to go through a pretty intense process, being part of the whole MetroCog system and everything. So we're really grateful for that. 2 years ago, we worked on the corridor study in conjunction with the consultant and with MetroCog through we'll call it the core area of town. It's reflective of a 3-lane design concept, which is kind of interesting. We're at 4 lanes right now, so looking to do a road diet that's going to make it more accessible, more walkable for people. We think it's going to be a safer environment and more attractive for businesses.
Well, that's interesting, and I wonder then too, when you're talking about redevelopment, even thinking about Dilworth 12 years from today, how do you balance that? Okay, the city is growing, we're refreshing things over here, reimagining things there. Is there that element of how do you balance the residents who have been here for a long time who don't necessarily want to see it completely become a new city? But so there's that balance there, right, of making sure it's still walkable, not just a 6-lane highway. How often does that enter your mind where you got to be careful with how?
I think we take great effort to consider, our existing neighborhoods, our long-term residents, our long-term businesses. We want to make sure that you can't ignore your history for the sake of your future, because that history is the foundation, right? That's going to be there. And I think those that do that, there's peril that waits, and it's exciting. And I think by keeping, our traditional neighborhoods, our traditional businesses in mind as we're looking to make progress, that allows us to strike the right balance.
Yep.
And that's going to be key, as we continue to move forward in any direction.
Yep. Well, and Peyton, you kind of mentioned this too with the new, 72 unit complex that's coming up next year. What else is on the horizon or on your master plan for housing specifically? We're always so curious about that as a region, right? Trying to attract people to move to this region.
Absolutely. And we are unlike, any of the other cities here, right? We're trying to find this missing middle housing. So a lot of, I would say that's going to be the next thing that you're going to see is more building and design concepts that's going to be supportive of that. So when we're taking into consideration new transportation networks, which we've been elaborately working on at this time, we're taking into consideration new land use patterns that have to exist around it. It has to be with that in the back of your mind. The traditional single-family neighborhood is still needed, but we also have to be responsive to what the demand is as well. And so that's what we're working towards right now.
Well, did you have something to say? I don't want to cut you off.
Well, it's like, as Peyton said, that market-driven economy is going to determine, what housing look like.
Yeah.
And then it's council and staff's job to work with those partners to determine how that best fits into the future of our city, because our residential is going to complement our commercial is going to complement our residential, and all of those elements are going to take every single city service we have.
Yep.
Fire, police, maintenance, all of that. So again, that element is, it's going to be an exciting time for the future of the city of Dilworth.
Yeah. Well, gosh, you guys keep bringing up good points. You're giving me so many questions, and I know time flies here, but I am curious because you brought up relationships with state leaders, right, when we're specifically talking about Highway 10 in that scenario. But we did just come off of a legislative session in Minnesota. Do you have any takeaways from that? Wins, not wins, things that we need to continue to work on together in the future? I'm curious.
I'll let Chad handle the political questions.
Well, and it's, I'm not a great politician. I'm really not. I don't. Yeah. The most important thing that I would look for out of St. Paul is to remember that they have a job to do, and that's to serve all the citizens of the state of Minnesota. Their job isn't infighting and political bickering, but to make sure that they're creating the best environment for the state, for their citizens to thrive. The dynamics, they brag about they're able to accomplish things with divided government, and I'll give them credit for that. And that goes a long way. But if the effort can be focused on serving citizens rather than serving self, I think we'll be much better off when they come to meet again in the next session.
Yeah, and I do want to say thank you, well, to both of you, but Peyton, I know you were down in mid-March for the Chamber's Day at the Capitol, and we had a good showing from Clay County business leaders. So thank you for moments like that where we go down together and you take the time out of your very busy life to do that and meet with people. It does mean a lot, even if we don't get exactly what we want out of the legislative session. It's that long game, right, of making relationships and reminding people what's going on up here in the Clay County area. So thank you. We have one more break to get to, but I wanted to sneak that in, and then we'll keep chatting for our last 10 minutes, so we'll be right back. Welcome back to our last segment of the day. Over the break, we were kind of just touching on the legislative session and the importance of building partnerships and relationships, and this kind of just gave me a spur-of-the-moment question. And you could take it a lot of ways. I'm curious about the importance of partnerships with you guys. I even think about mutual aid, right? That's an idea of partnerships. What are some things that are important to you guys regionally that you have to be working together with folks on, different organizations, whether they're governmental or not? I mean,
well, and one of the major selling points with our state officials for our fire department was the fact that we do have mutual aid. Mutual aid with obviously the city of Moorhead, Clay County, and then the two counties actually work together for mutual aid with fire departments. So when we talk about partnerships, I think that's an excellent example of a very successful opportunity for those partnerships. And I'm going to defer the next one to Peyton or let him continue, and then maybe I'll come back to that.
Yeah.
Because I know that, he on a daily basis, he's working with other, officials throughout the county. And I'll just let him touch on that and come back.
Yeah, it's amazing. So I just think about in our community alone, we think about basic services, water and sewer. We get our water from Moorhead Public Service. Our sewer goes to the city of Moorhead. Without that collaborative effort, they're under no obligation to accept us, right? But it's about being a good team player, looking out for the region as a whole. I think about what, I alluded to MetroCog earlier, making sure all of our transportation networks are aligned with one another. And I have a, pretty, robust relationship with my counterparts here locally and in West Central Minnesota as well, because that collaborative effort and spirit is, kind of at the core of what I believe in. And that's if we're all working together to get up the mountain, then at that point we'll all succeed together. And so us working in conjunction with Mayor Shelley or working with the city of Fargo, whoever it may be, we're always there at the table. We're always present. When I got up here, it's kind of interesting. I learned a lot about the community as a whole, the Dilworth community, and the connotation that it had, it was this isolated island off in the middle of nowhere, but that's not the case. The city of Dilworth is closer to downtown Fargo than most of Fargo is, and a lot of people don't realize that.
That's interesting.
Yeah, we really are, and so we provide such a great service. But that's part of our selling pitch, is that we are close to our neighbors in Fargo.
Yeah.
It's not that we're close to, something within the lakes area, which obviously that's nice, we're a little closer there, but that's what we talk about, that we are this close to all these other regional amenities that we house here locally. And that does not work if you do not have partners working with one another.
Yeah, and well, we appreciate that too, and it's fun to see. I even think back to, might have been one of our first episodes of this show. And thank you again for coming here and obliging us. But it was Sheriff Johnner was here, Chief Helmick, he was fairly new at the time. Pete Nielsen stopped by, and because all those guys are best friends because they work together so often. And so me as a resident and an outsider and a chamber and employee, it's just great to see that level of collaboration and to know that it goes on at all levels in all departments. It's fantastic. So again, thank you. And you brought up the point of all the things going on in Dilworth and how it's important for people to know about it, but engage with it. How do our business leaders in the broader business community, how do they keep up with you guys? I know I was looking at with Dilworth on Track, that's a website, but are there places people can go to keep up with you and all the cool things you have going on? Because we want people to engage, right? And
yeah, and there's a balancing act between our level as city officials and then what the business community does. They do a great job actually collaborating with one another. I know they have some social media interaction, and they're, they understand being in a small town community, albeit within a metro here. There's certain challenges that go along with that because we don't have all the same amenities that maybe a Fargo has. So they do a good job of coordinating efforts. I think back to our town festival, right? So we incorporate in a lot of our business community into that. And they're strategizing with one another. Hey, what special are you going to have that day? And so they'll, well, we won't do it on that. We won't serve a taco in a bag or whatever
Sure.
people eat up here. And, but it's all part of that collective community spirit, and knowing that one success is everybody's success.
Yep. That's good. And Mayor, I didn't want to cut you off if you wanted to say something, but I was going to give you the ending question, unless you wanted to jump in on that.
Hopefully it's not a quote again.
Yeah,
I'm
your guest here. I'm willing to do whatever you need. Like, how can I help?
We'll get another quote out of you at the next State of Cities. Don't worry.
That's.
Well, I just want to know, and it doesn't have to be too technical. What are you looking forward to next year? What are some big things that are getting you jazzed up about 2026?
All of it. But 2026 promises to be, the culmination again of 4 or 5 or 6 years of work and partnerships. I mean, breaking ground on the community center is going to be awesome. Looking at the potential breaking ground in a new residential neighborhood, that's going to be, again, outstanding. And then, of course, with the culmination of that new residential development, it's going to look at, okay, does this spur on, is this the catalyst for our North Side Park project? Yeah. So as we get into 2026, I'm excited about the physical things, but I'm also excited about the partnerships that we've created and using them to continue to grow Dilworth. Back to the partnership question and how do businesses keep up with the city of Dilworth? I would, welcome the use of the chamber because the chamber's been a great partner for the city of Dilworth. It's been a great partner to connect us on the business front, but it's also been a great partner to be a catalyst and to be really to lend credibility to the city of Dilworth in St. Paul. It's been a fantastic tool to strengthen our relationships with our new representatives in Representative Joy and Senator Kupek. I mean, again, those relationships are growing. They're prospering. They're blooming, right? And that I'm really excited about maintaining our existing partnerships. With Mayor Shelley, with Mayor Dardis, Mayor Mahoney. It's a fantastic group. But I'm also looking forward to where we go next and really continuing to grow new partnerships as well.
Yeah. Well, it's a bright future, and I think that's why State of the Cities is such a sought-after event. It's one of my favorites, getting all of you leaders in a room together. And yeah, sure, there's a little bit of bantering, but to hear all of the grand plans and the work that you all do together and collaborate, it's really great. So again, I've probably said this too many times, but thank you for doing what you do for our region. And I'm going to have to land the plane here. I have one quick update. I just want to remind everybody that next week is our Midwest Tech Summit. We're going to be talking all about AI, technology, business impacts. And on this show next week, we'll be here with Joe Raso and Shannon Full to talk about Innovate 28. And then coming soon after that, we're going to be here with the Metro Flood Diversion Authority talking about that project and its updates. So we have some fun episodes coming up. So make sure to stay tuned in, and we'll be back here next week. Thank you guys for being here.